At 4:17 in the morning, the security camera across the street captured a porch light turning off. At 4:18, the camera froze for 6 seconds. At 4:19, the light inside the house at number 23 went dark. And by sunrise, Elise Hanlon was gone. If you believe someone remembers something about that morning, if you believe small details matter, stay with this case. Because the smallest overlooked seconds kept this file buried for 8 years. Elise Hanlon was 32 years old. Elementary school teacher, lived alone in a narrow 2-story duplex on Briar Hollow Lane. No history of violence, no known enemies, no recent breakups. Her car remained in the driveway. Her purse was on the kitchen counter. Coffee grounds still sat inside the filter, damp but unused. There were no signs of forced entry. The front door was locked from the inside. The back sliding door was closed. Bedroom undisturbed. Phone charging on the nightstand. The responding officers initially treated it as a voluntary disappearance. Adults leave. Adults reset. Adults run. Except Elise had lesson plans printed for Monday, and a parent-teacher meeting scheduled for Tuesday afternoon, and a vet appointment for her golden retriever on Wednesday morning. She had withdrawn no cash. Her bank activity ceased at 9:40 the previous night, an online grocery order. The case shifted classification 72 hours later. Suspicious missing person. Detective Rachel Monroe was not assigned at that time. 8 years ago, she was still 2 precincts over, working narcotics interdiction. The Hanlon file cycled through 3 investigators before landing in archive storage. Cold, unprioritized, unsolved. The theory back then, someone she knew. But no fingerprints out of place. No DNA foreign to the home. No neighbors reported screams. No vehicles captured clearly leaving the street in that hour window. The security camera across from number 23 belonged to a retired accountant named Walter Ives. It faced his driveway, but caught the Hanlon porch in peripheral frame. It was analog. It glitched. 6 seconds missing. That glitch was documented and dismissed as signal interference. It would not be dismissed the second time. 8 years later, during a plumbing collapse in the crawlspace of number 19, 2 houses down, a contractor found plastic sheeting beneath old insulation. The homeowner had recently moved in. He called police because the sheeting smelled wrong. Inside the layers were scraps of fabric and a single gold bracelet with an engraving to E always forward. Elise Hanlon owned a bracelet matching that description. The file reopened the next morning. Detective Rachel Monroe requested it. She read it twice before visiting Briar Hollow Lane. 8 years is enough time for paint to change colors, fences to be replaced, trees to grow taller. But foundations remain. Number 19 had been occupied continuously by a man named Adrian Vale, 38 years old at time of discovery, software compliance analyst, no criminal record, lived alone, no prior police contact beyond a noise complaint 5 years earlier. He had lived there at the time Elise vanished. 2 doors away. He had never been interviewed. Not once. Because in the original canvas, he had been listed as out of town on business. During the disappearance window, travel receipts were never requested. He had volunteered that information casually, and the original team had moved on. Rachel stood on the sidewalk between 19 and 23 just after dusk on her first return visit. Same street, same narrow driveways, same distance. 42 steps from Elise's front door to Adrian Vale's. 42. Close enough to hear a muffled crow if windows were open. Close enough to see lights flicker. Close enough to watch routines. Rachel did not knock on number 19 that first night. She walked the block instead, measured angles, counted sight lines, identified camera placements. Number 27 now had a modern high-definition system installed above the garage. It faced down the lane. Not helpful for 8 years ago, but helpful for understanding current movement patterns. Vale still lived there, still worked remotely, still kept to himself. Neighbors described him as polite, quiet, predictable. He shoveled snow for elderly residents during winters. He accepted packages for those out during the day. He attended one-block barbecue every summer and left early. Rachel reread the original canvas notes. His name appeared once, neighbor at 19 out of town. No additional info. That was it. No follow-up. No verification. She requested his employment records from 8 years prior. Corporate response archived. Time to retrieve pending. She requested cell tower pings from the original window. Carrier response. Retention limit exceeded. Data unavailable. 8 years erases more than memory. It erases infrastructure. But it does not erase structural habits. Rachel walked to the crawlspace entrance at 19. Forensics had already processed the area. No full remains, only fabric remnants, and trace biological material degraded beyond immediate identification. The sheeting had been layered with old insulation bats. Deliberate concealment, but not burial, not permanent, temporary. As if waiting. Waiting for what? Opportunity to relocate, or belief it would never be found. Rachel crouched and looked at the foundation beams. The crawlspace height allowed partial entry. Not comfortable, but manageable. The bracelet had been wrapped separately, almost preserved, not discarded, kept. That detail unsettled her, because trophies are not about disposal. They are about memory, and memory implies revisiting. She reviewed missing persons within a 20-mile radius over the next 8 years. 2 additional disappearances shared similarities. Single women. No forced entry. No financial movement. Both within 4 miles. Both unsolved. Neither connected at the time. One occurred 3 years after Elise. The other 5 years after. Adrian Vale remained at number 19 throughout. Never moved. Never left the neighborhood. Some offenders escalate. Some refine. Some hide in routine. Rachel did not believe in coincidence when proximity repeated. 42 steps. 8 years. 3 women. No forced entry. She requested a warrant to search the interior of number 19. Preliminary approval pending lab confirmation on the bracelet trace. If biological material matched Elise. Probable cause strengthened. If not, the case would become circumstantial. Rachel stood again between the houses. Lights flickered on inside number 19 at precisely 6:45 in the evening. Same time neighbors reported seeing him water plants. Routine. Predictable. Comfortable. He had lived 2 doors away from the crime scene for 8 years, and no one had ever asked him to account for the night Elise vanished. That changes now. If you follow evidence over assumptions, subscribe now. And tell me in the comments, based on what you've heard so far, does the timeline feel intentional or accidental? The lab confirmation arrived just before noon. Trace mitochondrial DNA extracted from skin cells embedded in the bracelet clasp matched Elise Hanlon's maternal line. It was partial, degraded, but statistically consistent enough to reclassify the crawlspace discovery as associated with her disappearance. Not proof of death, not proof of location, but proof of contact. The warrant was signed at 13 minutes past 1 in the afternoon. Detective Rachel Monroe did not rush the approach. Rushing narrows perception. She assembled a limited team, 2 uniformed officers for perimeter control, 1 forensic technician, 1 digital analyst. Quiet entry. No lights, no spectacle. Adrian Vale opened the door on the second knock. He was thinner than his driver's license photo suggested. Hair slightly receded. Calm expression. Neutral tone. Yes, she identified herself. Presented the warrant. He read it carefully. No visible tremor. No immediate protest. Of course, he said. I have nothing to hide. People say that often. The interior of number 19 was organized. Sparse but not sterile. No clutter. No stacks of newspapers. No obvious signs of hoarding or obsessive display. Living room gray sectional sofa. Bookshelf arranged by height. No photographs of family. Kitchen. Stainless appliances. Knife block full. No missing slots. Hallway framed abstract prints. Bedroom. Queen bed. Precisely made. Single nightstand. Laptop dock on desk against far wall. Rachel moved slowly. She was not looking for chaos. She was looking for asymmetry. The crawlspace access panel in the hallway closet showed fresh scuffing, consistent with recent forensic entry. Nothing older immediately visible. She crouched, measured the distance from hallway to crawlspace. 3 steps. Easy access. She asked Vale how long he had lived there. 10 years, he said, which meant he had moved in 2 years before Elise disappeared. Do you remember Elise Hanlon? She asked. He paused half a second too long. The teacher? I think so. She lived down there. He gestured vaguely toward the street. Did you speak to her? Maybe once or twice. Block events. Where were you the morning she disappeared? He did not hesitate this time. Out of town. Business trip. Chicago. Do you have documentation? It was 8 years ago. That's correct. He held her gaze. I can try to locate something. The digital analyst began imaging his laptop under warrant authority. Vale did not object. That too registered. Most people protest. He asked for water instead. Rachel moved to the backyard. Small, fenced, grass evenly cut, shed in rear corner. Locked. She requested the key. He provided it without delay. Inside lawn tools, fertilizer, 2 storage bins labeled winter decor and tax files. No visible stains. No soil disturbances inconsistent with seasonal maintenance. But soil compaction can normalize over time. The forensic technician collected samples near the fence line where grass appeared marginally thinner. Inside again, Rachel entered the garage. Workbench along left wall. Pegboard with tools arranged symmetrically. Storage freezer against right side. She opened it, empty except for ice trays and frozen vegetables. No odor, no residue. She noted the garage ceiling access hatch. Attic? She asked. Yes. He retrieved a ladder. The attic insulation was undisturbed except near the access point. Boxes labeled college papers, electronics cables, old textbooks. Nothing immediately incriminating. But offenders who keep trophies rarely display them. They conceal them within ordinary containers. Rachel opened one box marked cables. Inside, neatly coiled wires. Beneath them, a small velvet pouch. She did not react externally. She handed it to forensics. Inside the pouch were 2 earrings. Gold. Different design than Elise's bracelet, but feminine. Single studs. Unpaired. Do you have a girlfriend? She asked from the attic opening. No. Have you? Years ago. Recently? New. The earrings were bagged. Vale watched silently. His breathing remained even. Rachel descended. Did you know there were items beneath your crawlspace insulation? She asked. He blinked. No. You never enter the crawlspace. Only for plumbing issues. Years ago. Recently? New. The forensic technician glanced at her subtly. Preliminary luminal sweep in the hallway showed faint reactive patterns near the closet threshold. Diluted. Inconclusive. But reactive. Rachel stood upright. Mr. Vale, you are not under arrest at this time. However, you will need to accompany us for further questioning. He nodded. No resistance. Neighbors watched from behind curtains as he was escorted to the unmarked vehicle. Calm departure. No handcuffs yet. At the precinct interview room, Rachel did not begin with accusations. She began with geography. She placed a scaled diagram of Briar Hollow Lane on the table. Highlighted number 19 and number 23. 42 steps, she said. He said nothing. Close enough to observe routines. Silence. Close enough to notice when someone lives alone. He folded his hands. People notice each other in neighborhoods. Did you notice Elise's routines? I might have seen her leave for work. At what time? I don't recall. You were out of town. Less. So you wouldn't know. He inhaled slowly. That's correct. Rachel shifted strategy. 3 women disappeared within 4 miles over 8 years. All lived alone. All had no forced entry. You remained at this address for all 3. That's coincidence. Eyes it. He looked at the table, not at her. Do you have evidence? We're building it. He leaned back slightly. That's not evidence. Rachel placed the velvet pouch on the table. Recognize these? No. They were in your attic. He did not touch them. I didn't put them there. Who did? I don't know. You live alone? Yes. No roommates. No guests. No family with access. Correct. She let silence expand, silence pressures. After 30 seconds, he spoke. I don't know how those got there. Rachel nodded once. The digital analyst entered quietly and handed her a printout. Archived email recovery from Vale's old account. Retrieved from cloud backup. 8 years ago. Flight confirmation. Chicago departure scheduled at 6:10 in the morning. The morning Elise vanished. From the regional airport 20 minutes away. Which meant he would have left his house around 5:20 at the latest. Elise's porch light went off at 4:17. Camera froze at 4:18. Light inside her house went dark at 4:19. If he was responsible, the timeline was tight, but possible. She placed the flight confirmation in front of him. You did travel, she said. He nodded. Yes. Did you leave directly from here? Yes. Anyone drive you? No. Did you stop anywhere? No. Did you speak to Elise that night? No. Rachel studied him. His effect was controlled, but control is not innocence. It is rehearsal. Why did you tell the original canvas officer you were already out of town? He frowned. I don't remember saying that. It's in the report. Maybe I misunderstood the question. Or maybe you wanted distance from the timeline. He said nothing. Rachel leaned forward slightly. We found trace biological material with Elise's bracelet in your crawl space. He blinked once. That's impossible. Is it? Yes. Then explain it. I can't. The interview paused, not because they lacked questions, but because pressure must build gradually. Rachel stepped out of the room. 3 women, 40, 2 steps, 8 years, and now physical evidence tying Elise to his property. Not enough yet, but no longer coincidence. Back inside, she changed tone. Did you ever enter Elise's home? No. Did she ever enter yours? No. Did you ever watch her from your window? His jaw tightened imperceptibly. No. You have a direct line of sight from your upstairs bedroom. That's how houses are built. Yes. She placed printed still frames from Walter Ives's old security camera on the table. Blurry. Grainy. But at 4:16 in the morning, one frame captured a faint silhouette near Elise's porch before the glitch. Enhancement suggested a male height and build consistent with Vale. Not conclusive, but suggestive. Is that you? She asked. He stared at the image. It's too blurry. That's not what I asked. Silence. Rachel stood. For now, you are free to leave. But do not leave the city. He hesitated. Am I a suspect? Yes. He nodded slowly, then stood and walked out without another word. Rachel watched through the observation glass. Some suspects unravel under accusation. Others wait. The bracelet had been preserved. The earrings concealed. The crawl space layered. These were not impulsive acts. They were deliberate, which meant mistakes would be rare, but not non-existent. She requested forensic comparison between the attic earrings and missing property lists from the other 2 women. If either matched, the pattern would solidify, and proximity would become predation. Outside, Briar Hollow Lane returned to evening normalcy. Porch lights on. Cars in driveways. Neighbors walking dogs. Number 19 remained dark until exactly 6:45. Routine. Predictable. But routine can fracture. And when it does, it reveals what patience hides. The earrings matched. Not immediately. Not cleanly. But close enough to reopen another family's grief. 3 years after Elise vanished, a graduate student named Marissa Klein disappeared from a condominium complex 4 miles west of Briar Hollow Lane. 28 years old. Lived alone. No forced entry. Car in assigned parking space. Phone on kitchen counter. Her parents had reported a single missing item when detectives cataloged her belongings at the time. A pair of gold square, cut-stud earrings. Gift from her mother on her 25th birthday. The original inventory sheet described them in minimal detail. Gold, square, small, no photographs attached. But Marissa's mother still had the purchase receipt archived in an old email account. Rachel sat across from her in a quiet interview room 2 days after the search at number 19. Marissa's mother had aged sharply in 3 years. Grief accelerates lines. Rachel placed a high-resolution photograph of the earrings recovered from Vale's attic on the table. The woman's hands trembled before touching the paper. These, she said quietly. You're certain? Rachel asked. She wore them almost every day. Rachel did not press for emotional elaboration. Identification would require forensic confirmation. But recognition mattered. It established direction. Back at the lab, microscopic analysis revealed trace epithelial cells inside one earring backing. Partial DNA. Degraded. Comparison against Marissa Klein's stored hairbrush sample returned a consistent mitochondrial profile. 2 missing women. Personal items. Hidden in the same attic. No forced entry in either case. No sign of struggle. Rachel pulled the 3rd file. 5 years after Elise, a financial consultant named Dana Reeves. 35 years old. Lived alone in a townhouse complex 3 miles south of Briar Hollow. Same pattern. Front door locked. Car present. Phone charging. Television still on when her sister arrived the next morning. Unlike the others, one neighbor reported hearing a faint metallic sound late that night, like something dropping. It had not been investigated further. Dana's missing property list included a thin silver chain necklace, no bracelet, no earrings, no recovered match yet, but 3 women within a tight geographic radius, and Adrian Vale residing centrally among them. Rachel mapped their addresses on a board, placed number 19 at the center, measured driving times at night, under 12 minutes to each location, walking distance to Elise, bicycle distance under 10 minutes. Vale owned a road bike. Photographs from social media 8 years ago showed him participating in local cycling events. He had deleted most of his profiles since, but digital remnants persist in archives. Rachel reviewed employment logs from the dates of Marissa and Dana's disappearances. For Marissa's case, Vale had no documented travel. For Dana's case, he had logged remote work activity from home beginning at 7:20 in the morning. No verifiable data before that hour. Nighttime remains largely undocumented unless deliberately recorded. The pattern was tightening, but circumstantial patterns do not convict. Rachel requested geofence warrant data retroactively. It was unlikely any provider retained 8-year-old anonymized device location clusters. They did not. Too old, too purged. Time protects offenders who remain patient. Rachel shifted focus from digital to behavioral reconstruction. She walked through Elise's home again, visualized entry, no forced access, which suggests familiarity, trust, or manipulation. Possibility 1, he knocked. She opened. Possibility 2, he had a spare key. Possibility 3, he entered earlier and waited. Rachel disliked the third option, because it implies premeditated proximity inside a private space before confrontation. Elise's bedroom showed no disturbance, meaning confrontation likely occurred near entry or living area. Yet no signs of struggle were documented, which suggests either rapid incapacitation or voluntary movement. Toxicology was never performed. There was no body. Rachel considered chemical sedation. Vale worked in software compliance. No direct access to pharmaceuticals. But online procurement is simple, if careful. She requested a search warrant expansion for Vale's financial records covering the months preceding each disappearance. Small purchases, unusual orders, late-night deliveries, patterns of isolation. The results arrived 48 hours later. 8 years ago, Vale had ordered a compact voltage regulator kit and a network signal disruptor component from an electronics hobby site. Delivery date 3 days before Elise vanished. The item description variable frequency interference module. Rachel compared that to Walter Ives's camera glitch. Analog system, susceptible to interference, 6 seconds missing. If someone standing near Elise's porch activated a localized signal disruptor, it could cause temporary video loss. Long enough to approach, knock, enter, deactivate. She requested the original camera unit from evidence storage. It had been retained due to the unexplained glitch notation. Forensic techs reconstructed the wiring, simulated interference using a similar regulator module. At a distance of approximately 20 feet, the analog feed dropped for 4 to 7 seconds. Rachel stared at the screen as it blinked. 6 seconds. Exact documented duration. She returned to the purchase records. Vale had ordered 2 such modules over the course of 4 years. One before Elise, one before Marissa. None documented before Dana's disappearance. But by then, perhaps he refined technique, or no longer required disruption if no camera faced the residence. Rachel drove to Marissa's former condominium complex. Older building. Minimal surveillance at the time. One exterior camera facing parking lot only. No camera near her front door. Dana's townhouse complex had no cameras 8 years ago, meaning Elise's street was the only location requiring interference, which explains the early acquisition. Preparation indicates foresight. Foresight indicates intent. Rachel assembled the timeline again. 4:16 in the morning, silhouette near porch. 4:17 porch light off. 4:18 camera glitch. 4:19 interior light off. 4:20 2 at earliest departure. Flight departure at 6:10. Airport drive 20 minutes. Arrival recommended 1 hour prior. which means he needed to leave his house around 4:40, 5 to 5 at the latest to reach airport comfortably. That leaves roughly 25 minutes between 4:19 and 5. Enough time to incapacitate, transport, return, prepare, leave. But transport where? The crawl space at 19 showed no evidence of full body concealment. Only property. Rachel reviewed soil sample results from the backyard. Trace human decomposition markers were inconclusive. Too much environmental contamination over years. She considered secondary location. Abandoned construction sites active 8 years ago. Storage units. Industrial zones. She pulled municipal development records. 8 years ago, a warehouse renovation project had begun less than 2 miles from Briar Hollow. Site later completed and converted to office space. During renovation phase, it had open foundation pits. Minimal security overnight. Rachel requested historical site access logs. No preserved entry sheets. Construction sites rarely maintain long-term visitor records. But she found something else. Vale's cycling app archive. Though he deleted the public profile, metadata persisted in a cloud backup. 8 years ago, on the morning Elise vanished, he logged a short cycling route at 5:30, 8 in the morning. Distance 2.1 miles. Duration 9 minutes. Start location Briar Hollow. End location industrial sector near that renovation site. Then no further tracking until later that week in Chicago. If he had left for the airport by car, why log a bicycle ride? Unless he transported something first, left it, returned home, then drove to airport. Rachel printed the route map, overlaid it with Elise's timeline. If Elise was incapacitated shortly after 4:19, he could have moved her by vehicle or concealed in a transport container. But the cycling log suggests something else. Lightweight cargo. Compact. Wrapped. A body can be secured on a bike trailer. But no evidence of trailer ownership surfaced. Yet small foldable cargo trailers can be disassembled, stored, disposed. She requested purchase histories for cycling equipment. No trailer purchases recorded. But private marketplace transactions leave little trail. Rachel sat alone in the evidence room, reviewing the crawlspace photographs. The plastic sheeting layers were folded neatly, not chaotic stuffing. The bracelet separated and wrapped. If he removed personal items before relocation, why keep them? Memory. Control. Proof to himself. Offenders who maintain proximity often derive security from watching aftermath. He remained 2 doors away. He watched investigators canvass. He answered casually. He observed grief ripple across the street. And he stayed. That level of composure suggests psychological reward tied to nearness, not distance. Rachel reopened the interview with Vale 2 days later, this time with cycling route printouts. He examined them longer than before. You logged a ride at 5:30, 8, she said. I must have gone for exercise before leaving. For the airport. Less. You had a 6:10 flight. I like early rides. 2.1 miles. He nodded. Short warm up. YN near an industrial renovation site. I was on the way to the airport. I was not. He said nothing. Rachel leaned back. You interfered with the camera across from Elise's house. No. You purchased equipment days before her disappearance. Electronics hobby. You rode your bike minutes after her lights went dark. That's circumstantial. 2 missing women's jewelry in your attic is not circumstantial. He looked away briefly, then returned eye contact. You don't have bodies. Not yet. But patterns accumulate, and patterns erode defense. Rachel ended the session without escalation. Pressure requires patience. She believed he would not confess under direct confrontation. He valued control too highly. Instead, she focused on location. If Elise had been transported to the renovation site, ground, penetrating radar could reveal soil disturbance beneath current office flooring. She contacted property management. Explained need for structural scan. Permission required court order. Obtained within 24 hours. Late evening, equipment scanned beneath the building's concrete slab. At the northwest corner, former foundation pit area, an anomaly registered. Density inconsistent with surrounding fill. Rectangular, approximately 6 feet in length, 3 in width. Buried depth, 4 feet. Rachel stood in the empty office space long after the technicians left. If the anomaly contained remains, the timeline would solidify. If it did not, the case would fracture. Excavation scheduled for the following morning at first light. Back on Briar Hollow Lane, porch lights flickered on again at 6:45. Number 19 glowed softly. Routine intact for now. By sunrise, that routine might collapse. And if the anomaly confirmed, Adrian Vale would no longer be a suspect. He would be a serial offender who hid in plain sight for 8 years. 2 doors away. Watching. The excavation began at 6:12 in the morning. Office employees had been instructed to work remotely. The northwest corner of the building, now an open-plan workspace with gray carpet tiles and modular desks, was stripped overnight. Concrete was cut in a clean rectangle. Dust hung in the air like suspended breath. Detective Rachel Monroe stood behind the temporary barrier as the slab was lifted. Below it was compacted soil, backfill from the original renovation phase 8 years earlier. Ground-penetrating radar anomalies are not guarantees. They are probabilities. The first 2 feet revealed nothing unusual. At 3 feet, soil coloration shifted slightly darker. At 4 feet, the shovel struck plastic. Work slowed immediately. The plastic sheeting was aged but intact, layered, folded, deliberate. Rachel felt the familiar tightening behind her ribs. Not anticipation, confirmation. Forensics took over carefully, documenting each stage. When the sheeting was opened, skeletal remains were visible within. Partial decomposition consistent with long-term burial. No clothing beyond fabric fragments. Wrists positioned near torso. No obvious trauma visible at first glance. Rachel did not speak. The medical examiner would determine identity, but context already narrowed probability. 6 feet long, 4 feet deep, 2 miles from Briar Hollow. Cycling distance 9 minutes. She stepped outside the building and called the lab. Expedite comparison with Elise Hanlon's familial DNA sample. Priority 1. Then she called the prosecutor. Anomaly confirmed, she said. Silence on the other end. Prepare for arrest warrant. By early afternoon, preliminary osteological assessment suggested female remains. Age range consistent with Elise at time of disappearance. No immediate evidence of perimortem blunt trauma. However, the hyoid bone appeared fractured. Possible strangulation. Final confirmation pending lab results. Rachel drove directly to Briar Hollow Lane. No extended strategy meeting. No delay. 8 years is enough. Adrian Vale answered the door again. He looked at her face and understood. You found something, he said.
Yes.
Is it her? We're confirming. He stepped back automatically as officers entered with arrest warrant. This time, there were handcuffs. He did not resist. He did not ask for details. He only said, "You're making a mistake." He was transported without incident. Inside interview room 3, Rachel placed a single photograph on the table, not of the remains, but of the excavation site. The open earth beneath office flooring. He stared at it. You interfered with the camera, she said evenly. You entered her home shortly after 4:17. No. You incapacitated her. No. You transported her by bicycle, trailer, or vehicle. I didn't. You buried her before sunrise. Silence. You then drove to the airport. Silence. You returned days later to monitor investigation. Silence. You kept her bracelet. His jaw tightened slightly. That wasn't mine. And you kept Marissa Klein's earrings. He looked away. You don't have proof. Will. She slid the cycling route map forward. You logged the ride. He inhaled slowly. That proves nothing. Your hide bone fracture pattern suggests strangulation is efficient and silent. No neighbors heard screams. He blinked once. Are you accusing me of being violent? I'm stating medical probability. He leaned back. You don't have bodies for the others. Not yet. Rachel changed angle. Why stay? She asked. He frowned. Why remain 2 doors away? I live there. After Elise disappeared. It's my home. You watched her family visit. Silence. You watched investigators. Silence. You attended block barbecues. Silence. Why stay? He spoke finally, voice measured. Because leaving would look suspicious. There it was. Not confession, but logic. She let that sentence sit in the air. You interfered with that camera, she repeated. No. Or reconstructed it. Same equipment you purchased. Coincidence. You buried her at the renovation site. No. You rode your bike at 5:38. Less. Why log that ride? I track exercise. After committing a murder. I didn't. Rachel leaned forward slightly. You're not impulsive, she said. You're structured, organized, patient. He remained silent. You didn't panic? You planned? No. You selected women who lived alone. Silence. You observed routines. Silence. You exploited trust. No. You strangled Elise inside her own home. His breathing shifted, barely perceptible increase. You removed personal items before burial. No. You kept them. I didn't. Rachel placed the velvet pouch and earring photographs in front of him again. Explain their presence in your attic. I can't. Explain the bracelet in your crawl space. I can't. Explain the burial site aligned with your cycling log. Silence. Rachel stood. Lab confirmation will arrive within hours. He looked at her sharply. And when it does, this becomes first-degree murder. He said nothing. She paused at the door. There are 2 more missing women. His gaze flickered, almost imperceptible, but present. Rachel excited. Outside, the lab call came sooner than expected. Mitochondrial DNA comparison confirmed the remains matched Elise Hanlon's maternal sample within high statistical certainty. Identity established. Cause of death still pending full analysis. But burial, proximity, and concealment were sufficient. Rachel returned to the interview room. She placed the lab report on the table. It's her. He stared at the paper. Then at her, still silent. You transported her body. Nuke. Your soil samples match trace minerals found on the plastic sheeting. His eyes narrowed slightly. That detail was new and effective. We matched sediment composition from your backyard to soil residue embedded in the outer plastic layer. The forensic report had not yet finalized that comparison, but preliminary indicators suggested similarity. Strategic pressure. He swallowed once. That doesn't mean. It means you accessed the burial materials. He leaned forward for the first time. You're constructing narratives. I'm assembling facts. Silence stretched. He finally spoke. If she's dead, I didn't kill her. You buried her? No. You interfered with the camera? Nope. You kept her bracelet? No. You stayed. His composure cracked slightly. You think staying means guilt. It means comfort. He exhaled sharply. I didn't kill anyone. Rachel watched his hands. They trembled faintly now, not panic, but strain. Then help us, she said. Tell us what happened. He looked at the table for a long time, long enough that silence felt like movement. Then, I saw her that night, he said quietly. Rachel did not interrupt. She knocked on my door. The first deviation from absolute denial. What time? Rachel asked. Around 4. What did she want? She said someone was outside her house. Rachel's pulse remained steady. And I looked. I didn't see anyone. And then she went back home. Did you follow her? No. Did you enter her house? No. Did you hear anything? Silence. Did you? Rachel pressed. He swallowed. I heard a thud. When? Minutes later. Did you investigate? No. Why not? He closed his eyes briefly. I didn't want involvement. Yet you never reported this. No. You let investigators believe you were out of town. Silence. Rachel leaned back slowly. Why lie? He opened his eyes. Because I didn't want suspicion. You already had it. Silence. If Elise had knocked on his door at 4, that changes timeline. Camera glitch at 4:18, meaning she returned home after speaking with him, which means the silhouette captured near her porch could have been someone else, or him leaving. But he claims he saw no one. Rachel recalculated. If Elise felt threatened, why knock on his door instead of calling police? Unless she trusted him, or feared escalation. Rachel's mind moved through possibilities. Was he covering involvement, or omitting a third presence? She stood again. We will verify that claim. He nodded faintly. You should. Outside the room, Rachel replayed the timeline. If Elise knocked at 4, then porch light off at 4:17 aligns. Camera glitch at 4:18. Light inside off at 4:19. If she felt threatened, she might have turned off lights intentionally. The 6-second glitch could have occurred as someone approached after she returned inside, which means the silhouette might not be Vale, which means there could be another actor. But the burial site, the jewelry, the crawl space, those are not coincidences, unless he is protecting someone or participating after the fact. Rachel stared through the observation glass. Adrian Vale sat alone, no longer perfectly composed, but not collapsing either. He had shifted from total denial to partial disclosure, which means pressure works, but truth may be layered. And if Elise knocked on his door that morning, then someone else was already on that street, watching. Before 4 in the morning, 8 years ago, 2 doors away. If Elise Hanlon knocked on Adrian Vale's door at 4 in the morning, then she was afraid before the camera ever glitched. That detail reframed everything. Detective Rachel Monroe did not return to the interrogation room immediately. Instead, she went back to the original canvas transcripts from 8 years ago. Most neighbors had been interviewed within 48 hours of Elise's disappearance. Statements were brief, routine. No one reported unusual activity. But original interviews are often shaped by the first assumption. And the first assumption had been voluntary departure, which meant officers asked, "Did you see her leave?" Not, "Did you see someone watching her?" Rachel requested interviews of every resident who had lived on Briar Hollow Lane at the time and remained in the area. 4 still did. Walter Ives, the retired accountant with the security camera, was one of them. He answered the door slower now. Age had bent him slightly. Rachel explained the new development. Body recovered. Arrest made. But timeline revised. "I need you to think carefully," she said. 8 years ago, before sunrise, anything out of place. He removed his glasses and cleaned them with deliberate care. "I remember the glitch," he said. "Yes. I checked the system that morning because police asked for footage." "Did you notice anything before the glitch?" He frowned. "Movement." "What kind?" "Like someone pacing." "Where?" "Across from Elise's house. Near the curb." "Male or female?" "Too dark. "Height?" "Medium, maybe." Rachel leaned forward slightly. "Did you tell the original investigators that?" "I don't remember." She checked the old transcript. No mention of pacing. Only the glitch. Memory degrades. But it also simplifies. "Did you see a bicycle?" she asked. He paused. "Yes," he said slowly. "Where?" "Leaning against a tree." "Woes. I assumed Elise's guessed." "Elise didn't own a bike." He blinked. "Then maybe Adrian's. He rode often." "Was the bike there before the glitch?" "I believe so." That detail mattered. If a bicycle was already staged before 4:17, then someone arrived earlier, possibly before Elise knocked on Vale's door. Rachel thanked him and left. Back at the precinct, she reviewed Adrian Vale's interview recording from earlier that day. "She knocked around 4, he had said. That suggests someone outside before that, which means Elise noticed something unusual prior to 4. Why not call police? Rachel pulled Elise's phone records again. At 3:58 in the morning, her phone screen activated. No outgoing call. No message sent. Screen active for 20 seconds. Then off. At 4:01, motion detected by the device's internal accelerometer. Likely her picking it up again. Then nothing. If she considered calling, but chose instead to knock on a neighbor's door. She trusted proximity over authority. Or she feared overreaction. Rachel mapped the sequence. 3:58 phone screen on. 4:01 movement. 4 approximately 02 to 04 she walks to number 19. 4:04 to 06 conversation with Vale. 4:07 to 4:16 returns home. 4:17 porch light off. 4:18 camera glitch. 4:19 interior light off. If Vale's statement is true, then someone else was present during that gap between 4:07 and 4:17. Someone Elise saw from inside. Someone close enough to her porch to trigger fear. Rachel requested enhanced frame analysis of the silhouette captured at 4:16. Digital specialists applied contrast expansion and motion vector modeling. Preliminary height estimation placed the individual at approximately 5 feet 10 inches. Vale was 6 feet 1. Difference not massive, but noticeable. Build estimation suggested narrower shoulders than Vale. However, blur and distortion limited reliability. Rachel examined neighborhood vehicle ownership records from that time. One stood out. Number 27. Owned by a man named Gregory Dunn, 45 years old at the time. Electrical contractor. Moved out 2 years after Elise disappeared. Now residing in another state. Original canvas transcript showed he had been interviewed. He reported sleeping through the night. No further follow-up. Electrical contractor. Rachel felt the connection tighten. Someone with technical knowledge could construct a signal disruptor. Vale purchased components, but Dunn would understand analog interference intuitively. She pulled utility records. On the morning of Elise's disappearance, a brief voltage fluctuation was recorded on Briar Hollow's line at 4:18. Not enough to trigger outages, but enough to register micro variation. If interference was localized, it might coincide. Rachel cross-referenced Dunn's work orders from that week. He had been assigned to a renovation project in the same industrial zone where Elise's body was found. Same site. Same time frame. She stared at the overlap. If Dunn worked nights occasionally, he could access the site without suspicion. Rachel requested background on Gregory Dunn. 2 prior complaints of inappropriate behavior from clients. No charges filed. Divorced. No current record of violent offenses. But 8 years ago, proximity placed him 3 houses away from Elise, and directly across from Vale. Rachel returned to Adrian. Vale. You said Elise knocked on your door, she began. Yes. Did you see anyone else outside? No. Did you see a bicycle near the curb? He hesitated. There are always bikes. That morning. I don't remember. Did Gregory Dunn own a bicycle? He frowned. I think so. Did you speak with him that week? Numpo? You're certain? Less. She watched for micro-expressions. A flicker when Dunn's name surfaced. Recognition. Possibly tension. You worked in software compliance, she said. You understand systems. Yes. Did you build the signal disruptor yourself? I didn't build anything, but you purchased components. For hobby electronics. And Gregory Dunn was an electrician. Silence. You both had technical capacity. I didn't conspire with anyone. Rachel did not accuse. She presented adjacency. Dunn worked at the renovation site where Elise was buried. He blinked. Once, twice. I didn't know that. Are you sure? Yes. If he had access to that site overnight, it would simplify burial. I had nothing to do with burial. But you logged a bicycle ride there. Silence. He looked down at his hands, then back at her. I went for exercise. After Elise knocked on your door. Less. After hearing a thud. Less. And you did nothing. I didn't want involvement. You interfered with the camera. No. Did Gregory Dunn? I don't know. Rachel shifted tone again. Did you see Dunn outside that morning? Silence stretched longer this time. Did you? She repeated. He exhaled slowly. I might have. That word matters. Might have what? Seen someone across the street. Describe. It was dark. Build. Medium. Height. Average. Care. I didn't see. Why didn't you tell investigators? He closed his eyes briefly. Because I didn't want to be involved. Rachel leaned back. Now 2 threads exist. Thread 1 Vale as primary offender. Thread 2 Vale as witness withholding information. But jewelry in attic remains unexplained. Burial route aligns with his cycling log. Unless he transported items for someone else, or discovered burial site later and removed trophies. Which seems unlikely but not impossible. Rachel requested a warrant for Gregory Dunn's current residence. Search limited to electronics components, historical storage, and any retained property connected to missing persons. If Dunn possessed memorabilia, then conspiracy becomes plausible. If not, Vale remains center. Meanwhile, forensic analysis of Elise's remains progressed. Ligature marks on cervical vertebrae, consistent with manual strangulation. No binding marks on wrists. No evidence of restraint tape, which suggests face-to-face confrontation, in close quarters, likely inside her home. Rachel revisited Elise's living room layout. Reconstructed probable struggle zone. Minimal disturbance implies rapid overpowering, which suggests physical strength advantage. Vale at 6 feet 1, athletic from cycling. Dunn at 5 feet 10, moderate build, either capable but burial required composure and time. 2 individuals would simplify transport, 1 to carry, 1 to watch. Camera glitch at 4:18, if Dunn interfered while Vale approached. Or vice versa. Partnership remains speculative. Rachel drove past number 27, now occupied by a new family. 8 years ago, that house faced Elise directly. Clear line of sight. If Dunn watched from his window, he could observe her routine. If Elise noticed him outside that morning, she might have gone to Vale for reassurance, which plays Vale as first contact and possibly second participant. Rachel stood on the sidewalk again at dusk. 42 steps to number 19. Approximately 38 to number 27. Distance equal. Opportunity equal. But jewelry was in Vale's attic, not Dunn's. Unless transferred. Unless planted. Unless she stopped the cascade. Evidence first. Speculation second. By late evening, the warrant for Dunn's residence was executed in another state. Preliminary findings transmitted digitally. Inside his garage workshop, old analog signal testing equipment, soldering tools, frequency modulators, common for electricians, not inherently criminal, but inside a sealed plastic bin in overhead storage. Investigators found a small wooden box. Inside the box, a thin silver chain necklace. No pendant, just chain. Rachel cross-referenced Dana Reeves's missing property. Thin silver chain necklace. Description matched. Photograph comparison pending. If confirmed, then Dunn possessed property from the third missing woman. Which means Vale is not alone. And Elise's knock at 4 in the morning may have been the moment she sensed one of them outside. The case no longer centers on one man living 2 doors away. It expands to 2 men on the same street. One with jewelry in his attic. One with a necklace in a box. Both with technical knowledge. Both with proximity. Both silent for 8 years. Rachel stared at the board. 3 women, 2 houses, 1 street. And a partnership that may have hidden in plain sight the entire time. If that necklace confirms, then the next question is not who killed Elise. It becomes, which one held her down, and which one watched. The necklace was confirmed within 24 hours. Dana Reeves's sister identified it immediately from high-resolution photographs transmitted by the out-of-state search team. More importantly, forensic swabbing of the clasp recovered trace epithelial cells. Partial nuclear DNA. Degraded, but usable. Comparison against Dana's stored hair sample returned a consistent profile. Gregory Dunn now possessed personal property belonging to 2 missing women. Dana Reeves and, indirectly through site access, Elise Hanlon. Adrian Vale possessed property belonging to Elise and Marissa Klein. The symmetry was no longer theoretical. It was physical. Detective Rachel Monroe convened a joint strategy session with the prosecutor and both investigative teams, local and out of state. The working theory shifted from single offender to cooperative offenders. 2 men. Same street. Complementary skills. Shared proximity. Rachel outlined the reconstructed timeline on the board. 3:58 Elise activates phone screen. 4 approximately 02 Elise knocks on Vale's door. 4 approximately 05 Elise returns home. 4:16 silhouette pacing near curb. 4:17 porch light off. 4:18 camera glitch. 4:19 interior light off. 5:38 Vale logs bicycle route to industrial site. Renovation site accessible to Dunn via work assignment. If Dunn was pacing near curb at 4:16, he may have been the silhouette captured. If Vale interfered with the camera, he created the window. If Dunn entered Elise's house, Vale could provide backup, or vice versa. Rachel requested cell phone carrier subpoenas for Dunn's device activity from 8 years ago. As expected, tower logs were purged, but billing metadata sometimes persists longer. One detail emerged. On the morning of Elise's disappearance, Dunn's phone registered a manual power off event at 3:54. Power restored at 5:42, which aligns roughly with Vale's cycling log end time. Rachel stared at the timestamp. 3:54, 4:16, 4:18, 5:38, 5:42. A coordinated window. She returned to Adrian Vale's interview room. You said Elise knocked on your door. She began calmly. Yes? At approximately 4. Yes. Gregory Dunn's phone powered off at 3:54 that morning. Silence. Powered back on at 5:42. He did not respond. Why would he turn off his phone before sunrise? I don't know. Were you communicating with him that week? No. We recovered Dana Reeves's necklace from his garage. A flicker. Barely there. You're suggesting something? He said quietly. I'm stating evidence. Has not my responsibility. Did you and Dunn speak after Elise knocked on your door? No. Did you message him? Did you signal him? He exhaled slowly. I didn't signal anyone. Rachel leaned forward slightly. You purchased 2 signal interference modules over 4 years. For hobby electronics. Dunn is an electrician. Lots of electricians exist. You lived 3 houses apart. Silence. Rachel shifted. If you were not involved, then Dunn acted alone. He looked up sharply. I didn't say that. You didn't deny it either. Silence. Pressure is most effective when options narrow. You heard a thud, Rachel said. Yes. We're from her house. How long after she returned home? Minutes. Did you look out the window? Less. And I saw someone moving. Woo. I couldn't see clearly. Height. Average. Build. Medium. Closer to Dunn's size than yours. Silence. That's your interpretation. It's geometry, she replied evenly. He looked down again. Rachel stood. We have Dunn in custody. That was not yet fully accurate. He was detained pending formal arrest processing. But timing would align within hours. Vale's composure faltered slightly. For what? Possession of property belonging to Dana Reeves. He stared at the table. Dana disappeared 5 years ago, Rachel continued. Her necklace was in Dunn's garage. Your attic contained Elise's bracelet and Marissa's earrings. He whispered almost to himself. This isn't how it was supposed to. Rachel caught it. How what was supposed to happen? Silence. She repeated. How what was supposed to happen? He pressed his lips together. You're constructing things, he said finally. Then clarify. He shook his head faintly. I won't be scapegoated. There is no scapegoat if you tell the truth. Silence. Rachel changed target. Who approached Elise first? No answer. Was Dunn outside before she knocked on your door? He looked up. I didn't see him. That's not what I asked. Long pause. Then, Wes. The word was almost inaudible. You saw Dunn outside? Wes. Doing what? Standing near the curb. At what time? Before she knocked. How long before? I don't know. A few minutes. Did he speak to you? No, Po. Did you speak to him? No, Po. Did you warn Elise? I told her I didn't see anyone. You lied. Silence. Why protect him? He swallowed. I wasn't protecting him. You concealed his presence. I didn't want involvement. Yet you remained involved for 8 years. He looked away. Rachel pressed. Who entered Elise's house? Silence. Did Dunn go in? Silence. Did you? His breathing grew uneven. You're twisting? Who entered first? He closed his eyes tightly. I didn't touch her. That in sentence matters. Not, I didn't kill her. Not, I wasn't there? Yeah. I didn't touch her. Rachel remained silent. Silence invites elaboration. He opened his eyes again. He went in, he said quietly. Dunn? Yes. Why? He said he wanted to talk to her. About what? I don't know. Did you follow? No. Did you hear struggle? I heard something fall. Then. I panicked. Why? Because I knew it would look bad. Why would it look bad? Silence. You interfered with the camera, she said. No. Then how did it glitch? He hesitated. He asked me to test something. What? A signal disruptor. When? Earlier that week. He said he wanted to see how resilient analog feeds were, and you agreed. Yes. Did you test it on the morning Elise disappeared? Silence. Rachel's voice hardened slightly. Did you activate it at 4:18? He stared at the table. Yes. There it was. Why? He said it would only be a second. Why that morning? He told me to. Before or after Elise knocked on your door? After. Timeline tightens. You knew he was outside. Less. You knew she was afraid. Less. And you disabled the only camera facing her house. Silence. Why? He whispered. I didn't think. You didn't think what? That he would. Kill her? He flinched. I didn't know he would. But you suspected something. Silence. You heard the thud. Yes. And you did nothing. He nodded faintly. Then you logged a bicycle ride at 5:38. Yes. Why? He told me to meet him. We're at the renovation site. For what? He swallowed hard. He needed help. With what? Silence. Rachel did not move. Finally, with digging. The room felt smaller. You helped bury Elise Hanlon, Rachel said evenly. He closed his eyes. Yes. Did you know she was dead? Less. Did you see her body? Yes. Did you touch her? No. You dug? Wes. You wrapped plastic? Less. You removed her bracelet? Silence. Did you remove it? No. Who did? He did. Why? Why? I don't know. Why keep it? I don't know. You kept Marissa's earrings. He shook his head. He gave them to me. Why? I don't know. You kept them. Less. Why? Silence. Because proximity mattered. Because trophies mattered. Because shared guilt binds. Rachel stood slowly. And Dana Reeves. He looked up sharply. I wasn't there. But Dunn was. Silence. You interfered with the camera that night? 2. No camera there. Rachel studied him. So Elise was joint participation. Marissa likely similar. Dana possibly done alone. Partnership fractured over time. Shared secrecy. Distributed trophies. One keeps bracelet and earrings. One keeps necklace. Balanced silence. Rachel stepped out of the room and ordered immediate formal arrest processing for both men on charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy. Gregory Dunn would be interrogated separately, but Vale's admission of interference and burial changed everything. 8 years. 2 doors away. Shared technical knowledge. Shared silence. Elise knocked on the wrong door that morning, not because Vale killed her directly, but because he chose not to stop what he knew was coming. And when it was over, he picked up a shovel. The difference between killer and accomplice becomes thin in soil 4 feet deep. And the rest of the story now depends on what Dunn says when he realizes Vale has started talking. Gregory Dunn did not ask for a lawyer immediately. That was the first difference between him and Adrian Vale. He asked for water. Then he asked what Vale had said. Detective Rachel Monroe did not answer that question directly. She placed 3 photographs on the metal table instead. Elise Hanlon's excavation site. Dana Reeves's necklace recovered from Dunn's garage. Marissa Klein's earrings from Vale's attic. Dunn stared at the necklace longer than the others. Where did you get that? He asked. It was in your garage, Rachel replied. That's not possible. It was inside a sealed plastic bin. He shook his head slowly. You're making that up. Rachel remained still. We have DNA confirmation linking the necklace to Dana Reeves. Silence. We have confirmation linking Elise Hanlon's remains to the industrial site where you were assigned. Silence. And we have a statement from Adrian Vale placing you outside Elise's house before 4 in the morning. That landed. He leaned back slightly. What did he say? He said you went inside. Dunn's jaw tightened. His lying. About what? Everything. Were you outside Elise's house that morning? No. Did you power off your phone at 3:54? I don't remember. We have billing metadata. He stared at the table. Rachel continued evenly. Vale admitted activating a signal disruptor at 4:18. Dunn's eyes flicked upward. Brief. Controlled. But reactive. So he's trying to blame me, Dunn said quietly. He admitted helping dig. Silence. He said you needed help. Dunn exhaled through his nose. That's convenient. Is it untrue? Less. You didn't bury Elise. No. You weren't at the renovation site that morning? No. You didn't keep Dana Reeves's necklace? No. I was in your garage. I didn't put it there. Who did? Silence. Rachel shifted posture slightly, relaxed but focused. You were working at the renovation site that week. Yes. You had access after hours. Less. You lived 3 houses from Elise. Wes. You owned signal testing equipment. Yes. You powered off your phone before 4 in the morning. I don't remember. You were seen pacing near her curb. Be who? Walter Ives. He laughed once, short and humorless. That old man can barely see. He saw enough. Silence. Rachel leaned forward. Elise knocked on Vale's door because she saw someone outside. That wasn't me. Who was it? I don't know. Did you see her that night? No. Did you ever speak to her? Maybe at block parties. Did you watch her? No. Did you enter her house? No. Rachel let the denial stack. Then she changed direction. Dana Reeves, she said. He blinked. What about her? Where were you the night she disappeared? Ate home. Phone activity? I don't know. Your garage contained her necklace. I didn't put it there. Did Vale? Silence. Rachel watched the micro-expressions. Fear, not outrage. Fear suggests recognition. You and Vale tested interference modules together, she said. No. He said you asked him to. He's lying. Why would he implicate himself? Silence. Why admit to digging if he could deny everything? Dunn's breathing shifted slightly. You're manipulating. I'm assembling. She placed a 4th photograph on the table. Soil layers from the excavation site. Cross-section view showing compaction sequence. You were familiar with soil composition there, she said. Yes. You would know where to dig without drawing attention. I never dug there. Vale says you did. Silence. Rachel altered strategy. Did Elise threaten to call police? Dunn looked up sharply. That's interesting, Rachel said quietly. You reacted to that. I didn't. You did. He looked away. Rachel pressed. Did she confront you about watching her? New beau. Did you follow her? No. Did she recognize you? Silence. That silence was heavier than previous ones. Did she recognize you? Rachel repeated. He swallowed. She looked at me once. He said finally. When? Days before? Doing what? Standing outside. Outside where? On the sidewalk. Why? I don't remember. You were watching her? No. You were watching? Silence. Rachel shifted again. Vale says you went inside her house. As lying. Did you ever enter? No. Did you hear a struggle? No. Did you see Vale leave his house that morning? Silence. That's new, Rachel said. He remained still. You saw him? No. You saw him. I didn't say that. You reacted. He looked frustrated now. You're frustrated everything. Tell me what happened at 4:16. I wasn't there. You were. No. Your phone was off. I told you. I don't remember. Rachel leaned back. Pressure point. You and Vale shared something? She said. No. You both kept property from missing women. I didn't keep anything. It was in your garage. I didn't know it was there. So someone planted it. Silence. Vale. He did not answer. If he planted it, why? Silence. To divide responsibility. Silence. To ensure mutual destruction. Silence. Rachel shifted tone again, softer. Elise knocked on Vale's door because she was scared, she said. Dunn stared at the table. She didn't knock on yours. Silence. She didn't trust you. His jaw tightened. Why not? Rachel asked. No answer. Because she'd seen you watching. Silence. Because you were pacing near her curb. Silence. Because she knew. His breathing quickened. You went inside after she returned home, Rachel said evenly. No. You confronted her? No. She resisted. No. You grabbed her. No. You strangled her. He slammed his palm lightly against the table. I didn't kill her. The volume spike echoed. Rachel remained calm. Then who did? Silence. You were there? I wasn't. Vale admitted digging. Has lying? Why would he admit to burial? Silence. To minimize his role, she continued. To shift primary blame. Silence. You strangled her, Rachel said quietly. He shook his head. No. You used your hands. No. Manual compression of the neck fractures the hyoid bone. He froze. Rachel saw it. Knowledge, not surprise. You didn't know we found that detail yet, she said. He blinked. Too late. You knew how she died. Silence. You felt the bone give. He looked down at his hands, then whispered, It wasn't supposed to happen like that. The second variation of that sentence. Rachel leaned forward slowly. What wasn't? She fought. You expected what? Silence. You expected compliance. Silence. You followed her inside. No. You grabbed her.
Numbo.
She screamed. No. You panicked. Silence. She hit her head. No. You tightened your grip. Silence. You didn't mean to kill her. His shoulders trembled faintly. Stop, he whispered. You didn't mean to kill her. Rachel repeated. He closed his eyes. She wouldn't stop, he said. There it was. You strangled her, Rachel said quietly. Silence. Then, Wes. The word landed heavier than the first confession. You strangled Elise Hanlon. Yes. Did Vale enter the house? No. Did he know you were inside? Yes. How? I told him. When? After? After? After she was dead, yes. Did he help move her? Yes. Did he dig? Yes. Who removed the bracelet? Why did? Why? I don't know. Why keep it? Silence. Why give him Marissa's earrings? He looked up. Because he wanted something too. Rachel held his gaze. So Marissa was joint. Silence. Was. She. He nodded faintly. And Dana? I was alone. Vale knew. No. So partnership fractured. Silence. You escalated. Silence. Rachel sat back slowly. Elise initiated by Dunn, facilitated by Vale. Marissa joint participation. Dana Dunn alone. Trophies distributed. Mutual leverage. 8 years of shared silence. 2 doors away. Routine maintained. Block parties attended. Snow shoveled for elderly neighbors. And beneath it all, 3 women erased. Rachel stood. You will be formally charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, she said evenly. Dunn stared at the table. And Vale. Conspiracy and murder for Elise and Marissa. Silence. He could have stopped you, she added. Dunn laughed weakly. He liked watching. Rachel paused at the door. That detail matters, because proximity is not only about opportunity, it is about gratification. Dunn strangled. Vale interfered. Vale dug. Vale kept tokens. Dunn escalated alone later. Shared guilt. Shared control. Elise knocked on Vale's door that morning seeking safety. Instead, she alerted the very network that would end her life. 3 houses, 1 street, 2 men, 8 years. And the difference between witness and accomplice dissolved in 6 seconds of static. Confessions do not end cases. They complicate them. Within 24 hours of Gregory Dunn's admission, both defense attorneys moved to suppress portions of the interrogations. Claims of coercion. Claims of strategic misinformation. Claims of psychological manipulation. Detective Rachel Monroe expected it. Confessions must be reinforced with structure. Because juries do not convict on emotion. They convict on corroboration. Dunn's statement placed primary responsibility for Elise Hanlon's death on himself. Manual strangulation. Panic. Escalation. He stated that Adrian Vale remained outside the house initially. He stated that Vale activated the signal disruptor at his request. He stated that Vale helped transport and bury the body. He stated that Marissa Klein had been a joint act. He stated that Dana Reeves had been his alone. Rachel reconstructed each event independently, removing Dunn's words from the equation. Elise first. Phone activation at 3:58. Knock at Vale's door around 4. Camera glitch at 4:18. Interior light off at 4:19. Phone powered off for Dunn at 3:54. Cycling log at 5:38 for Vale. Burial site 2 miles away. Signal interference module purchase confirmed by transaction records. Voltage fluctuation logged on street grid at 4:18. Soil composition at burial site partially consistent with residue on plastic layers found in Vale's crawl space. Everything aligns without confession. Then Marissa. No camera interference required at her condominium. She disappeared on a Thursday night. Neighbors reported no disturbance. Dunn's phone activity showed a gap of 1 hour and 12 minutes beginning at 10:43 that night. Vale's device registered a brief Bluetooth pairing with an unidentified device at 10:51. Likely Dunn's handset. Location triangulation too old to retrieve. But archived application data showed a cycling route logged by Vale the following morning near a wooded retention area behind an abandoned warehouse. Ground search teams deployed to that location within hours of Dunn's statement. At a depth of approximately 3 feet beneath disturbed soil near a drainage culvert, skeletal remains were discovered. Personal effects absent. No jewelry. No purse. No clothing beyond fragment traces. DNA comparison later confirmed the remains were Marissa Klein. 2 burial sites. 2 joint concealments. Dana Reeves required separate reconstruction. Dunn admitted acting alone. Phone powered off at 11:12 the night she disappeared. Reactivated at 1:38. No camera interference necessary at her townhouse. Entry likely voluntary. She was physically stronger than Elise. Evidence suggested blunt force trauma before strangulation. Her remains were discovered 2 days after Dunn's confession in a shallow grave near a disused electrical substation where Dunn had previously worked. No involvement from Vale in that burial site. No soil trace linking Vale to that location. That separation mattered legally. Partnership existed, but not consistently. Rachel returned to Adrian Vale one final time before formal indictment filings. "You interfered with the camera," she said. "Les. You knew Dunn was inside. Les. You heard the struggle. Les. You dug. Yes. You kept property from Elise and Marissa. Les. Why?" He stared at the table. "It made it real," he said. "What did?" "That we had done it." "We." He nodded. "You enjoyed proximity," she said evenly. "You stayed 2 doors away. Les. You watched investigators. Les. You watched families grieve." He swallowed. "Yes." "Why?" He exhaled slowly. "Because leaving would admit guilt." "That's not what I'm asking." Silence stretched. "Then." "Because it felt powerful." Rachel studied him. Watching. Les. Knowing. Les. He did not cry. He did not rage. He described it clinically. Control through concealment. Power through silence. She shifted to Marissa. "Joint decision?" she asked. "Yes." "Planned?" "Yes." "Did she knock on your door too?" "No." "How did you approach her?" "Dunn followed her home." "You interfered with anything?" "No cameras." "Why participate a second time?" Silence. "Because the first time wasn't enough," she asked. He closed his eyes briefly. "I didn't think it would escalate." "It already had." Silence. "Dana?" "I wasn't involved." "Did you suspect?" "Yes." "You didn't report him?" "No." "Why?" "Because I was already complicit." Shared leverage. Mutual destruction pact. Rachel exited the room for the last time. Charges were formalized within the week. Gregory Dunn. 3 counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping, tampering with evidence. Adrian Vale. 2 counts of first-degree murder under accomplice liability. Conspiracy, evidence tampering, signal interference to obstruct investigation. Media coverage returned to Briar Hollow Lane. Satellite vans parked where porch lights once glowed undisturbed. Neighbors who once described both men as quiet and helpful now avoided cameras. Walter Ives gave a brief statement. "I always wondered about those 6 seconds," he said. 6 seconds. That was all it took to erase a life from public record. 6 seconds of static. 8 years of silence. 3 women. Rachel stood once more between numbers 19 and 23 at dusk. 42 steps. She counted them again, not because she doubted the number, but because repetition cements memory. Elise knocked on Vale's door seeking safety. Dunn waited outside. Vale disabled the camera. Dunn entered, hands around her throat. Thud. Silence. 5:38 bicycle ride. 4 feet of soil. Plastic folded neatly. Bracelet removed. Years passed. Block barbecues attended. Snow shoveled. Porch lights turned on at 6:45 each evening. Routine masks violence effectively. But routine also traps those who mistake familiarity for invisibility. Rachel looked at number 19 one final time. Empty now. Evidence seals on the door. Number 27 had new occupants long ago. The street appeared ordinary again. But ordinary is often the final disguise. 3 families would finally bury their daughters properly. 3 graves with names. No longer missing. No longer unsolved. The difference between predator and accomplice had narrowed to inches of soil and seconds of static, and it had taken 8 years to dig through both. Case status cleared. Not because justice restores what was taken, but because silence no longer protects the guilty. Trials do not unfold the way confessions do. Confessions are linear. Trials are surgical. Each fact is isolated, tested, reframed, challenged. The prosecution separated the cases strategically. Gregory Dunn would stand trial first for the murder of Elise Hanlon. The reasoning was precise. Elise's case contained the strongest forensic convergence, recovered remains, signal interference reconstruction, phone power down window, burial site tied to his work access, and Adrian Vale's admission of assisting with concealment. Marissa and Dana would follow. Detective Rachel Monroe spent weeks preparing testimony, not emotional testimony, not narrative-driven, structured testimony, timeline anchored to data, 3:58 phone activation, 4 approximately 02 knock at Vale's door, 4:16 silhouette pacing, 4:18 signal disruption, 4:19 interior light off, 5:30 8 cycling route, 3:50 4 Dunn phone powered off, 5:40 2 Dunn phone reactivated, soil stratification consistent with clandestine burial, ligature, free manual strangulation, fractured hyoid bone. Each data point presented without embellishment. Dunn's defense centered on coercion and suggestibility. They argued he had been manipulated into confession. They argued contamination of evidence across properties. They argued the necklace could have been planted. They argued Vale's cooperation was self-preserving fabrication. The prosecution countered with independent corroboration, utility voltage fluctuation logs, archive purchase receipts for interference modules, geological analysis comparing burial soil to renovation backfill, phone metadata from billing archives, and most importantly, Dunn's knowledge of unreleased medical details. During testimony, Rachel was asked directly, "Did the defendant describe how the victim died before you disclosed cause of death?" "Yes," she answered. "How?" "He referenced resistance and manual compression before we disclosed the hyoid fracture." Defense objected, overruled, because knowledge of non-public injury details strengthens voluntariness. Vale testified under plea agreement. His demeanor was calm, clinical. He admitted activating the interference device. He admitted digging. He admitted keeping property. He described Dunn's escalation inside the house. He claimed he never touched Elise. The defense attempted to fracture credibility. "You watched." The attorney said to Vale. "Yes." "You could have called police." "Yes." "You could have intervened." "Yes." "But you chose not to." "Yes." Silence hung in the courtroom, because sometimes admission without justification is more unsettling than denial. Rachel observed Dunn during that testimony. His jaw clenched, his posture rigid, but he did not look surprised, which confirmed what she already knew. Partnership built on control rarely collapses cleanly. After 9 days of testimony and 3 days of deliberation, the jury returned a verdict. Guilty, on all counts related to Elise Hanlon. Sentencing phase followed. Life imprisonment without parole eligibility. The courtroom remained quiet. No outburst. No visible collapse. Dunn stared forward as if absorbing static. Marissa's case proceeded next. Joint liability presented through burial site recovery. Vale's testimony again central. Cycling log data placed him at disposal location. Dunn's phone blackout window aligned. Forensic anthropologist testified to burial depth and timing consistency. Guilty. Again. Dana's trial required separate strategy. No Vale involvement. No interference module. Purely Dunn. Blunt force trauma. Manual strangulation. Burial near substation. Necklace recovered in his garage. Guilty. 3 verdicts. 3 convictions. Adrian Vale's plea agreement resulted in consecutive life sentences with possibility of parole review decades later, contingent upon continued cooperation. He did not contest sentencing. He offered no allocution, no apology, no statement to families. Rachel reviewed the final case file in her office weeks later. 8 years from disappearance to resolution. 42 steps between houses. 6 seconds of static. 3 women. 2 offenders. 1 street. She reopened the original canvas report one last time. Neighbor at 19 out of town. No additional info. That single unchecked assumption allowed 8 years of concealment. Not because officers failed intentionally, but because proximity can appear harmless when routine normalizes it. Rachel added a notation to departmental training materials: verify travel claims independently. Never assume distance equals innocence. Silence between neighbors is not neutrality. Outside her office window, the city moved normally. Traffic, pedestrians, routine. Cases close on paper, but patterns persist. Dunn and Vale did not begin with murder. They began with observation, watching routines, mapping habits, testing interference, small boundary crossings that escalated. The first act was not strangulation. It was disabling a camera. Because once visibility is removed, accountability weakens. Rachel archived the physical evidence log. Bracelet returned to Elise's family. Earrings to Marissa's mother. Necklace to Dana's sister. Property restored does not restore life, but it restores truth. Briar Hollow Lane eventually shed media presence. Homes sold. New families moved in. Children rode bicycles along the same curb where pacing once occurred before sunrise. The street did not change shape. Only knowledge changed. And knowledge alters safety more than fences do. Rachel closed the file. Case status adjudicated. But one detail remained embedded in her mind. Elise knocked on Vale's door because she sensed something wrong. Instinct registered threat before evidence did. If she had called police instead, would 6 seconds have been enough? That question has no procedural answer. Only silence. And in that silence, the lesson remains. Predators rarely appear distant. They stand within 42 steps, waiting for static. Closure is procedural. It is not emotional. 8 years after Elise Hanlon vanished before sunrise, Briar Hollow Lane held a small memorial at the edge of the sidewalk near number 23. No media, no speeches from officials. Just 3 families standing where routines once masked violence. Elise's parents placed white lilies beneath the maple tree near the curb. Marissa's mother wore the square, cut gold studs again for the first time since her daughter disappeared. Dana's sister held the thin silver chain in her palm before fastening it around her own neck. Detective Rachel Monroe remained at the perimeter. Not out of detachment. Out of boundary. Investigators close files. Families live with them. 42 steps separated number 19 and number 23. Rachel walked the distance one last time. Measured pace. Heel to toe. 42. Not symbolic. Exact. The distance a person can cross in under half a minute. The distance trust can travel faster than fear. 8 years earlier, Elise sensed something wrong. Her phone activated at 3:58. 20 seconds of hesitation. Then she chose proximity. She knocked on the nearest door. The wrong door. Gregory Dunn waited near the curb. Adrian Vale disabled the only camera facing her porch. 6 seconds of static created a void. Inside that void, escalation occurred. Manual pressure against the throat. Hyoid fracture. Silence. By 5:38, a bicycle route logged normalcy. By 6:10, an airport departure created alibi distance. Routine resumed. Porch lights switched on each evening at 6:45. Snow shoveled in winter. Block barbecues attended in summer. Predators do not always retreat. Sometimes they remain embedded, observing aftermath, reinforcing control through visibility. Vale described the feeling clinically. Power in proximity. Dunn described escalation as unintended, resistance triggering compression. Both narratives shared a core. They believed control equaled invisibility. They miscalculated duration. Because time erodes concealment. Plastic deteriorates. Metadata persists. Voltage logs remain archived. Soil layers preserve disturbance. And silence eventually fractures under cumulative pressure. Rachel revisited the training memorandum she had drafted. 3 principles highlighted in plain text: verify voluntary travel claims, investigate technical anomalies fully, re-interview early witnesses when classification changes. 6 seconds dismissed as signal interference had cost 8 years. 8 years allowed 2 additional murders. Not because the clue was absent, But because it was minimized, Rachel stood beneath the maple tree where Walter Ives once mounted his analog camera. That system no longer existed. Modern high-definition units lined several homes now. Visibility increased. But visibility without scrutiny changes nothing. The case of Elise Hanlon, Marissa Klein, and Dana Reeves would become instructional material. Not for drama, for discipline. Manual strangulation leaves minimal scene disruption. Signal interference can be locally generated. Accomplice liability extends beyond physical contact. Shared concealment equals shared culpability. 40, 2 steps. 350, 8 phone activation. 4 approximately 02 knock. 416 pacing. 418 glitch. 419 interior dark. 530, 8 cycling log. 350, 4 phone powered off. 540, 2 reactivated. Each timestamp now embedded in departmental case study modules. Patterns matter. Seconds matter. Proximity matters. The memorial concluded quietly. Families dispersed gradually. No applause, no cameras. Just 3 names spoken aloud in the open air. Elise Hanlon, Marissa Klein, Dana Reeves. Rachel remained until the street returned to ordinary rhythm. A delivery van passed. A dog barked from behind a fence. Children's laughter echoed faintly from further down the block. Ordinary resumed. But ordinary is not the same as unaware. The houses remained standing. Number 19 would eventually be sold. Number 23 would likely change hands someday. New occupants would not feel history in floorboards. Because crime does not stain wood, it stains timelines. Rachel turned away from the maple tree and walked back toward her vehicle. She did not look back at number 19. She did not need to. The distance had already been measured. 42 steps. The difference between safety and silence can exist inside that span, and the next case would begin somewhere equally unremarkable. Another porch light. Another neighbor. Another routine. But 6 seconds will never be dismissed again. If this case stayed with you, subscribe for more investigations where every detail counts. And in the comments, tell me, what was the moment you knew something didn't add up?